Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune arts and entertainment reporter, back with another special episode of the DNT Minute featuring my column, Front Row Seat. This week, I write about a new book about a rock star romance that has lasted a lifetime and that was born in Duluth. Lynette Rainey Grendel met her life partner 50 years ago in Duluth, where they were both 8th grade students at Ordine Junior High School. By 1980, the two were young adults, staying out at night with friends, sitting around Park Point beach fires. In 1982, after hanging out at Sir Benedict's Tavern on the Lake and deciding to call it a date, they shared their first kiss. Thus began a journey that would take the couple to Minneapolis art galleries, to New York City rock clubs, to the canals of Venice and the cutting edge of contemporary culture, where Lynette's partner literally made sparks, power tools were involved, as rock icon Venus de Mars. Wild Things, Lynette's new memoir, is subtitled A Trans Glam Punk Rock Love Story. Venus de Mars is transgender and began to express her identity in an era when we had no real role models and made it up as we went, Lynette writes in an introductory note. Contrary to popular belief, it's not easy being a rock star. Consistent with popular belief, it's also not easy being married to one. The process of writing and publishing the book involved revisiting some painful territory. Writing felt like going through therapy, said Lynette, sitting beside Venus in a recent Zoom interview from their Minneapolis home. We had to rip the Band-Aid off and just look at all this stuff, and Venus is telling me things I never knew before. How you move through the difficulties and miscommunications and misunderstandings is to slow down, be respectful, be open to listening to the pain and the difficulty, and not be reactionary, said Venus about what she's learned over the years. Hopefully, because of the generosity you've shown, you will get that generosity back. Understand that performers have a well-rounded life that is not necessarily on the stage, and don't make negative assumptions about the person who wants to help them stay well-rounded, said Lynette about what she hopes readers will learn. I think people wanted you just to be your stage presence, and you got a lot of positive support for that, Lynette continued, turning to Venus. And I'm saying, hey, let's take a walk. Let's go horseback riding together. Lynette was always a constant, and I loved her continually through everything, said Venus. She was my foundation. Venus de Mars is best known for leading All the Pretty Horses, a glam punk band active with various lineups for the past 30 years. While the band never had the kind of big commercial breakout some of its peers enjoyed, All the Pretty Horses has earned perennial love from fans drawn to de Mars' powerful songwriting, charismatic stage presence, and empowering openness. We were both really supportive of each other's art forms, said Lynette, who teaches writing at Normandale Community College. With both of us being so immersed, so involved in the arts, I think that also meant that we weren't going to be the kinds of people who expected to fall into stereotypical roles. The couple moved to the Twin Cities in the early 80s, at the height of what's now remembered as Duluth's Turn Out the Light era. While it was a troubled time for the city economically, both Lynette and Venus say they have fond memories of their early years here. There was freedom here, which I really loved. The punk scene was opening up right then, said Venus. Duluth was creating places for touring bands. The Suburbs and the Flamin' O's are the two that I'm thinking of, and then at that time, the replacements were opening for the Suburbs, so they came up also. At the time, it was hard to gain leverage in the Minnesota music scene as a band based in Duluth, de Mars continued, but I could perform in all the little clubs in Superior, Wisconsin, and go crazy on weekends and go to Park Point and do the fires all night long with all of our friends with multicolored hair after whatever show we went to. During her Duluth years, Lynette founded a magazine called Rag Times to highlight local arts events. A 1982 KUMD newsletter bragged that a Holly Near concert the station presented in Superior received rave reviews in both Rag Times magazine and the Duluth News Tribune and Herald. It was just a really good place to grow up and develop a sense of your independent self, said Lynette, thinking back on her Zenith City youth. And it's really funny. After we moved away and came back for visits, I was suddenly struck by how beautiful it was. I hadn't really noticed that. The author is returning to Duluth on May 4th. She'll read from Wild Things at Zenith Bookstore. She'll be back in the Northland on June 2nd when she'll appear at Drury Lane Books in Grand Marais. Meanwhile, Venus de Mars and All the Pretty Horses will perform at Duluth's Pizza Luce on May 6th, technically May 7th since they go on at midnight, as part of the Homegrown Music Festival. De Mars is also working on her own memoir. It's a massive project, but I've been writing for quite a while, she said. I'm hoping to get the manuscript to a level where I can explore potential publishers this year. She's also working with an archivist to re-release and follow up on a film she made about the trans community in 1990. From the couple's personal archives, Venus shared a contact sheet with alternate versions of the engagement photo the couple published in the News Tribune in 1983. The Duluth newspaper ran engagement pictures regularly, and we wanted to be a part of that, in our own style, Lynette writes in the book. The author said she hopes her book helps to challenge assumptions. We encourage stereotypes in so many different ways. It's just shorthand thinking, she said. Everybody has a much more complicated story. I was really not so aware of our relationship in a holistic way, said Venus about the year's Wild Things Chronicles. The band and the work and the complexity of moving forward and trying to understand that took a lot of brain space, aside from the difficulty of just being trans in those early days. We didn't have inside of ourselves stereotypical expectations for ourselves and our relationship, said Lynette. We were set up to expect change anyway and go create our lives together. We were talking just last night, said Venus, as we were ending the night and watching something on Netflix, how wonderful it is that we are together and we're here and we have so many similar interests and we support each other. My life is calming now, more than it was, and it's just... She paused. I'm very grateful. That's this week's column. I'll be back next week with a tribute to my favorite Star Wars movie. Hint, it's turning 40 this year. Until then, I'm Jay Gabler, Duluth News Tribune.